Sifatul fi'l, the attribute of doing or acting. This eternal, everlasting attribute of creating, al-fi'l is his doing, is his creating, al-khalq, is called al-ihdath. Ihdath means making things happen. Al-huduth is happening or occurring. So al-ihdath is making things occur. Al-ikhtira', that's in a literal sense inventing. For Allah, as an attribute of Allah, it's creating. Al-ijad, that means giving existence, giving wujud. Wujud is existence. So al-ijad is to give wujud, to give existence. Wal-ibda', and ibda', it means in a literal sense innovating. So as an attribute of Allah, it means creating. Allah Ta'ala, He creates without any previous example. He makes something exist without copying it from something prior. Al-Khalq, creating. Al-Fi'l, doing or acting. As-Suna', making. And At-Takhliq, which means creating a lot. Takhliq is an emphatic form of khalq. So these are also names of this attribute. In English, we will use creating, doing, action, acting or action, and making. It is bringing things into existence from non-existence, which is nothingness. Al-Qada', the decree, also means creating, khalq and takhliq. It's one of his attributes, al-Qada'. Allah said, فَقَضَاهُنَّ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ. Allah decreed them as 7 heavens, meaning He created them as 7 heavens. By this meaning of creating, no one other than Allah created anything, whether a body or an action, good or evil. Allah said, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Recite in the name of your Lord who created. The verse does not specify anything that Allah created, because Allah is the one from whom creating took place and to whom it is specific, and thus there is no creator besides Him. Annihilating, i'dam, is reducing those events back to nothing. Abu Hanifa said, وَأَمَّا الْفِعْلِيَّةِ فَالتَّخْلِيقُ وَالتَّرْزِيقُ وَالْإِنْشَاءُ وَالْإِبْدَاعُ وَالصُّنْعُ وَغَيْرُ ذَلِكَ مِنْ صِفَاتِ الْفِعْلِ. As for the attributes of doings, they are at-takhliq, creating a lot, at-tarziq, providing, which is a specific doing, al-insha', which is creation or origination or producing, bringing forth, al-ibda', creation, meaning creating. It's clear for you. Ibda' has the letters of ba, dal, ayn, like bid'ah. And you know what that means. It means to do something that wasn't done before. As-suna', making, and other than that, of attributes of doing. It is also called at-Takwin, and the case of Takwin, is a famous case to the Sunni theologians. Yani, this is perhaps the most famous case where the Asharis and the Maturidis differed. And what we learned is that it's a true difference in Aqidah, and it's not merely a difference in the wording. According to Al-Bukhari, Abu Hanifa, the Maturidiyah, and the early Ashari, and some of the later ones like Ibn Hajar and our Shaykh, and it is attributed to Ibn Abbas, this attribute of doing, of creating, is eternal. So he has an eternal doing, because Allah was the creator in eternity. He has an eternal creating. Had he not had the attribute of creating in eternity, he would not be the creator in eternity. Because based on what we've been learning, if you have a descriptive name, then you need to have the attribute that validates that descriptive name. So if he's described as creator, he needs to have the attribute that validates that, which is creating. Or if he has the descriptive name of doer in eternity, then he has to have the attribute that validates that name, which would be doing. So according to this party, the takween is eternal, the doing is eternal, the creating is eternal. According to Ibn Kullab al-Ash'ari and the latter day Ash'ira, the doing is created and not an attribute confirmed for the self. Because had the doing been eternal, according to them, the done thing would have also been eternal. So they denied its eternality. They denied the eternity or eternality of the doing to avoid claiming the creation being eternal. To them, the doings are attributed to Allah as the fulfillment of the power and will of God pertaining to what is possible. So the Maturidis said the takween is eternal. They said the mukawwin, the creator, is eternal. And so the takween, the creating, is eternal. And the mukawwan, the created, is not eternal. That's what the Maturidis said. The Ashari said the mukawwan, the created, is not eternal. So, therefore, the takween, the doing, the creation, is not eternal. While mukawwin and the creator is eternal. He has an attribute called power. That's what they said. So there, if you're following, then you can see already that here's where the Ash'ari saying is weaker. Because what did they just do? They just confirmed, as we're going to say, they just confirmed the descriptive name without confirming the attribute that validates that name. They said the creator has power. That's what they said. The Maturidi said the creator has creating. The Maturidiyah disagreed with the Ash'aris, saying that the attribute of creating, khalq, existed in eternity. And there was no creation, no makhluk, Yani, that's their position. They said, no, it's this simple. Allah is Khaliq, creator, in eternity. So he has Khalq, creating, in eternity, and there was no makhluk, there was no creation. They're saying, not like what you're saying, Ashari, you're saying something not straight, not consistent. Al-Ash'ari responded that just as there would not be a strike without something that was struck, there would not be a doing without something that was done. So if the done thing is created, and there wouldn't be a doing without a done thing, then the doing is created. And hence, there would not be an act of creating khalq without a created thing, makhluk. So if the doing is eternal, the done is also eternal. That's what the Ash'ari said. Therefore, the doing must be created because the done thing is certainly created. And they agreed that the done thing is created. Thus, it is not an eternal attribute of the self, this doing. It is a trace of his power. The Maturidiyya responded that denying an eternal doing for the eternal doer confirms occurring created doings for the eternal doer. They're not saying he really believes that. They know he doesn't believe that. They're saying this is really what your argument leads to. So it's not really the strong argument. He responded that those doings that are called attributes do not make anything new happen to the self. They are created. The Maturidiyya then followed up that if he does not have an attribute in eternity, and you do not confirm events dwelling in him, then it is necessary that he was not eternally named Al-Khaliq, the creator, or Al-Raziq, the provider or sustainer, according to you, Ash'ari, because there is no attribute to validate the name. In eternity, he wouldn't have been in eternity Al-Khaliq, and in eternity Al-Raziq. They're saying, Al-Ash'ari, according to you, Allah started to be called Al-Khaliq and Al-Raziq after the existence of creations, not eternally, because according to you, there's no attribute to validate the name. There's no attribute in eternity to validate the name in eternity. However, that cannot be true. The Maturidis are saying, that can't be true, Al-Ash'ari, because his speech is eternal. By our agreement, we agree that his speech is eternal. And it is confirmed in the revelation that refers to that eternal speech that he is Al-Khaliq or Raziq. So, in the created revelation that refers to the eternal speech, we know that he is in eternity Al-Khaliq and Al-Raziq, that the names are validated for him in eternity. So then he must have the attributes that validate those names in eternity. By the strength of this argument, the Ash'aris split. Some said that these names are figurative, majaz. And what is meant by not being named in eternity is being named in a literal sense. This is wrong because names are not subject to being literal or figurative. So here the Ash'ari split from what the Maturidis said. Some of them actually gave a blatantly wrong response, which is this one. that those names, Al-Khaliq, Allah as Al-Khaliq, that's a figure of speech. Others did not accept this, and rather said, and this is narrated about Al-Ashari himself, that the names have the judgment of proper nouns, not mere adjectives. And proper nouns are not literal or figurative in the Arabic language. They're saying, these are his names. Instead, the expression Al-Khaliq or Raziq, the creator, the sustainer, applies in the literal religious context. Haqiqa Shar'iyyah. They said he is really, religiously, Al-Khaliq or Raziq. And the source of the discussion is there in the religion. Not in a literal linguistic context. Yani, Al-Ash'ari is saying, you all are making this a linguistic argument. I'm making this a religious argument. He is Al-Khaliq al-Raziq in eternity. That's undeniable. Not because of some doing in eternity, though. Rather because those are his names. From there, the Maturidi argument was stronger, because they imposed on him that he permits the name of the doer of an action for who is not ascribed with doing the action. And the other argument is that the expression in this case is religious, not linguistic. That's the weaker saying. The Ash'ari are not deemed sinners, nor heretics, nor blasphemers for this. Instead, we say that they have opposed what is weighty. Thus, according to the Maturidiyah, the doing of Allah, the fi'l of Allah, fi'lullah, is eternal. And the done thing that happens by the doing of Allah is a creation. Likewise, the khalq, the creating, and the takhliq, the creating abundantly of Allah, are an eternal attribute called the attribute of Takwin, giving being. Those are eternal attributes, or that's an eternal attribute of Allah Ta'ala. Furthermore, providing al-razq or at-tarziq is a specific takween, as well as creating life, ihya, that's a specific takween, and creating death, imata, and tahriq, creating motion, and taskeen, creating stillness, etc. Those are all eternal doings of Allah Ta'ala. Among his doings is guiding and misguiding, and forgiving and punishing. The doings are of two categories. Doings that have traces, fi'liyah, wujudiyah, such as the previous examples, all of what we just mentioned here, providing, creating life, creating death, etc. Doings that have traces. And doings of negation, fi'liyah, salbiyah, such as Allah is forgiving whomever He willed among the sinners. This means that Allah leaves out the punishment of deserving ones. It is a doing by considering leaving something out a doing. It is a salb, a negation, because it is negating the punishing of the deserving one. وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ